2 classes today. And the first one is Get to the Close. So I really, really love it when you guys pipe in. I do not feel interrupted. And if I need to interrupt you to get back on track, I'll do that. So I love it when you participate and there are no wrong answers. So please feel free to speak up. Okay. That's the deal. All right. So I've heard that in the last 2 sessions, you guys covered making, receiving offers and some negotiation tactics. So today we're going to move forward to the sales process post offer. Okay. And I also have been very sick and I'm going to try not to be disgusting, but I will have to sip water so that I don't choke. Okay. So I really want to hear from all of you. What challenges has anyone encountered since the last time we were together? Has anyone had something come up that you are willing to share?
I'll share.
Okay.
I need to get better at my vetting, working with potential buyers and just getting a better idea of where they're at and educating them on the steps that they need to take before involving others, involving the lenders, getting to that point. So that just kind of recently happened where a buyer clearly is not ready. And I think I just jumped out of excitement and forgot to ask some key questions.
Totally. Makes sense. Yeah, that happens to all of us. It just happened to me yesterday. Someone called on one of my listings and I was so excited to meet with them that I had to call back and say, actually, I have a couple of questions for you. So yeah, but that's good to vet people so you don't waste your time or theirs. What else?
I had a list. Go ahead. Somebody else is going?
No, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I had a listing that a potential listing that ghosted me. I did the listing presentation and I followed up with her a couple of days later and I haven't heard back from her.
Okay. Are you open?
I'm trying to not take it personal and think that it's me. She's waiting. She's in probate right now. Her husband passed away. She's in probate right now, so she's waiting on work. So I didn't want to be too pushy. I know that takes a while, and it could be a timely process. But I still just wanted to touch base with her and stay in communication. And I was just following up with her. I let like 5 or 6 days pass by, and I was just following up with her. And she hadn't called me back or text me. I called, left a message, and I text her.
Yeah. Just remember, delay is not denial. That sounds like she has a lot on her plate. So just keep showing up. And yeah, it's very likely not personal. And giving her the grace is awesome. I think you're doing the right things, continuing to follow up. But it's hard. It's still hard to this day. Who else? Ariel, did you have anything?
I drove all the way to Grass Valley to show a client 2 properties, and he was like super serious. He brought proof of funds. Everything was great. I was like, yes. He was like, I want it. Let's write an offer when you get back to the office. And I'm like, great. And then I wrote it up, and then he backed out and was like, I don't want that place. I'm a pass. And I'm like, okay. And I was just like, because that was like my first time experiencing that. So I was like, it's fine. Like, this is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, get used to it. This is not like it's abnormal. But it was a little frustrating because I drove all the way to Grass Valley and that was pretty far, took a lot of my day, but I'm not going to let it discourage me and I'm going to keep going.
Did he tell you why?
No, he really didn't. And then he started already like, oh yeah. He said, it's too far out there. He's like, I want something in Auburn. And he's like, I want this property. Can we go look at this property? And I pulled it up and I'm like, this property's pending, I'm just like, no, it's already pending. So yeah, he's saying he wants something in Auburn. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we'll see.
it's part of our job is about education sometimes. And, that those things, it's difficult, but it is part of the process for people to figure out what they want. I had worked one time with a buyer and a buyer, husband and wife, where she was pretty sure that they wanted to spend $700,000 on a traditional floor plan. And he was pretty certain they were going to spend like 1.2, 1.3 on a very modern home. And so talk about seeing a lot of homes, spending a lot of useless time, but it was all education, and it took us, all of those visiting houses to get to where they needed to be. So that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for sharing. You're right, all of you, it's all going to happen. And it's so good to hear from other people that things like that are happening, so that when it happens to you, you don't feel like it's all you, especially when you're new. Even as a seasoned person, I have my group of women that we talk all the time, just so that we don't feel like we're the only ones having problems. So, all right, I'm going to move on to today. We're going to develop transaction timelines. We're going to apply some best practices to avoid risk as much as we can, and identify ways to follow up after closing to build our business. Okay. So can someone read this for me, please? Melinda, you want to do it?
Real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's a strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command.
It's true. It's true. And our buyers and sellers are going to be the most stressed out. So I always like to tell them that the timeline is not theirs to worry about or manage. I'm going to show it to them, but it's going to be all me. So has anyone in this group bought and sold your own home? Just think to yourself if you have. Okay.
Yes.
When you have. Okay. So what did you have to do after you signed the contract as a consumer?
On what side of it? Are you saying?
Let's go as a seller. What did you have to do after you signed? Actually, let's go as a buyer, since that'll be most of your first experiences. What did you have to do?
Or for me, it was on the seller side where I did all the work. I had to, once I signed the contract, I had to do a, what do you call it? The property disclosure, the owner disclosure, and list everything that was wrong with the home that I knew of. I had to get a letter from the HOA. I had to get a payoff amount from the lending institution. Had to declutter, prep, fix some things. I mean, it was quite a bit, but I compartmentalized everything and did it in increments, so it wasn't that bad for me.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. That kind of illustrates for us how many people outside of the buyer and seller and realtor, there's so many other people involved in the transaction, right? And so as a realtor, it's our job to be like coordinating all of those people and between contract and closing. And so let's see here. We're going to draft multiple timelines today. Like contract deadlines, buyer timelines, seller timelines. But first, we're going to focus on deadlines in a contract. So there's apparently, I don't know about this, but a sample contract you have been using in the previous 2 sessions. If you have that nearby, we're going to reference it. The first thing you'll do is use a contract to plot out the different deadlines related to that content. Okay. So. Okay. Does everyone have it? Does anyone have it?
I'm not familiar with it. Maybe I'm the only one, but
okay. That's okay. So this timeline in front of us on the screen shows some of the dates that are in this pseudo contract. Okay. So the contract acceptance date was September 2nd, and then they're having the inspection period is going to end on the 13th. And the closing date is supposed to be October 2nd. Okay. So let's take a second. We're just going to work on our own, not with a partner or a group. But why don't you all just shout out, no wrong answers. Think of as many people as you can that work in a transaction, no matter if it's a buyer or seller. So I'll start. We have the agents. Who else?
Transaction coordinator.
Yep. Transaction coordinator.
Appraiser.
Appraiser.
Lender.
Yep.
Escrow.
Home inspector.
Yep.
Title
Yep.
company.
Yep.
Transaction coordinator.
Yep. Transaction. Yep. So you guys have pretty much hit all the nails on the head. The insurance agent. Yeah, exactly. Contractors, maybe.
In-laws.
Underwriter, lenders.
Inspectors.
Yeah. Whether we like it or not, family members for sure. Yes. Yeah, whether we like it or not. So, okay. That's right. So there's a lot of people, suffice to say, and we really are the connection between all of them. Now that we have our list of participants and have identified those working with the buyer, let's start filling out our buyer timeline in your participant guide. Okay. We're going to write the buyer timeline above the contract timeline. This is your to-do list to meet those deadlines, including all the documents and all the people involved. So you can use abbreviations if you want to, like buyer's agent and listing agent. So I want to point out something, since this is referencing a buyer's agent as BA, all the contracts actually refer to us as selling agent. And that got really confusing for me in the beginning. So I just want to point it out. So selling agent and buyer's agent are the same. An example of several to-dos influencing each other and leading up to a deadline is the inspection. The buyer's agent sends a list of inspections. The buyer chooses their inspections, and the buyer's agent schedules inspections and informs the listing agent. So where would this happen? You should ensure that you add the responsible party and the due date, potential due date. On the screen are some questions to ask yourself here. So as you add the dates and responsible parties, like what's the first thing that needs to happen? What do the buyers need to know? What do they need to do? What's possible for them to do? And what do I need to know and do? What is the rest of the team? And where are the vulnerability points? And what can I do there to minimize risk? If you hire a transaction coordinator, they will put together these timelines for you. And as you go through more and more practice, you'll identify more areas of risk. Can anyone think of a potential risk point in this area?
Appraisal coming in lower than the list price.
Yeah. So any inspection, go ahead.
Yeah, not getting your inspections done on time.
That's a big deal. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Okay. So here's an example of the buyer timeline. So we're right away when we get into contract, we're going to let our client know what inspections are possible for them and probably make a suggestion on the bare minimum that we would like them to see do: home, pest, and roof, right? If it's out on property, septic and well are added to that list. Those are the bare minimum that we would want them to do. And then the others, are really up to them. So then you can see here we have the earnest money needs to get in right away in the first 3 days unless otherwise negotiated, right? That's part of the contract. And then we need to inform the listing agent of the inspection schedule because they need to let their clients know to be out of the home so that we can go in. And then the inspections happen. Oftentimes in real practice, I don't see the listing agent joining the inspections. It's usually the selling agent. And then the buyer is able to come as well if they want to. I encourage them to meet with their inspector or at the very least call their inspector after it's over. Within 24 to 48 hours, you get the inspection back, and then you send the inspections to your buyer and to the other side. The appraisal will come due. The appraisers actually call the listing agents to schedule because that's who has contact with the seller, so they can schedule. And then there's usually a deadline for the appraiser that he or she has to turn it in by. So when you get it, then it doesn't have to be shared with you. Your buyer can choose to share it with you or not. And as a listing agent, you may never know what the house appraised at. And then, of course, the last contractual deadline is the final walkthrough. And I think the default in the purchase agreement is the last 5 days of the contract. You have the ability to go and do a final walkthrough. People usually ask me why we do that. And it's really to make sure that everything is as expected it should be. So if there's any repairs that were supposed to be done on the home, or if there were any appliances that were supposed to be left behind, you're checking for all of that, that there was no damage that occurred when people were moving out of the home. So those are all things that are being checked during that time. Okay, so do you have any questions about this general timeline here? Silence is golden. All right. Okay. So let's flesh out this buyer timeline by thinking through the items we've just plotted. We know our deadlines, what's being done to meet those deadlines, and who is involved at this point. So let's be sure we have everything covered by thinking about what communication needs to happen to accomplish these things. How and when are you going to communicate deadlines, for example? Are you providing your clients with a timeline of the entire transaction to begin with? I do. If so, how will you get this to them? Will you schedule a time to go over it with them? You need to have some scripting about that. So can you think of anything that might be important to communicate along with the timeline? For example, something that you might communicate along with the timeline is that the truth about these deadlines, when people think of contracts, and I'm sure some of you do too, it's very black and white, right? It's like when people see these dates, a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, these dates, this is very serious. And it is very serious. But what people need to understand, because there's a lot of money on the line, especially for buyers, right? They're putting thousands of dollars of earnest money into an escrow account that's at risk as far as they know. And what we need people to know is that, yes, if we go back to this screen, our inspection period ends on September 13th, right? But there's no, I say it this way, there's no guillotine that drops on the 13th. Okay, there's no thing that comes crashing down and you lose all your money and we're kicked out of contract. That's not how it works. The first thing is that I'm managing the timeline. I am staying in communication. If we need extra time for any reason, I will know that and I will be communicating it, and you're never at risk. When the 13th comes, if we are not prepared, we're just going to ask for more time. If they're not willing to give it to us, then we have another conversation. But at the very worst case scenario, we have 2 whole days to perform on a contractual obligation before they can kick us out of contract. And unless I'm dead in the ditch, that will never happen. So you're totally safe. Does that make sense to everyone, what I'm saying? Do you have any questions about that? I can't see you, remember, so.
It makes sense.
Okay, thank you. I'm out here in the ether and I can't see anybody. Okay, thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so think about the possible documentation that you will need to represent your buyers. Continue to use the buyer timeline in your participant guide and do your best to track the documentation points in the correct chronological order. You can always come back to this and move things around. So some considerations are on the screen for you. Is this an active communication or a document? To whom and from whom is the document going? What's the best way to deliver this? And that has a lot to do with your client sometimes. I have a client right now that will not sign anything. I have to drive to his house every single time. Something he needs to sign. So that's fun. And then what is the plan for follow-up after a document has been sent to the responsible party? That is surprisingly important, and I'll come back to that. And are there templates for this that I can use to create to save effort and streamline communication across transactions? So let's think for a second about, when you're communicating a timeline, what do you think the best way to get that to someone is?
In writing so they could reference to it.
Yeah, email.
So one time I thought it would be maybe a good idea to send people Google Calendar invites, and just learn from me that was a terrible idea, because if the dates move and then you're moving calendars, and then people just get very confused and overwhelmed. So I just sent it in an email, and that was that.
I learned most people do not like when others put things on their calendars. I don't like it. So I learned that. I don't like it.
Good
like,
to
tell
know.
me you're going to do that first.
Yeah. So after the document has been sent, is it you just press send and forget it, or what do you think probably needs to happen, and why? Can you give an example? A follow-up call?
To go over what it is that you sent, so that way they understand, those deadlines and how they're kind of mucky because they can change, and you'll communicate as the process goes as to why this is important and why they need this information.
Yeah. I mean, the real easy answer to that's perfect. And also because it's our job. It's just our job, right? If you think about being a buyer or a seller for a second and put the hat on, a buyer is getting reached out to from the title agent, right? They're getting reached out to from their lender. They're getting, now I got all this stuff they got to figure out. And then they got all this stuff they got to read. And it's like, drinking from a fire hose. So if there's something important, it is absolutely our job to be like, hey, did you get my email? Did you, see? And we're not bothering, we're helping. Okay. Okay. So this is just updating the timeline for us. All right. So the other side of the transaction, a seller transaction, there are also many people that you're responsible for coordinating. So we're going to do basically a similar thing to do a timeline for the seller side. You're going to go back to your list of who's involved in a transaction. And we're going to figure out where the seller participates. So we've gotten into contract. What is the first thing that your seller needs? What do they need to know? What do they need to be aware of? What do you need to know and do? Who do you need to coordinate? So can you think, what is the first thing the seller needs to do? It depends on the transaction. I'll say that. If there's anything that is liened on the property that needs to pass over, the very first thing that they need to do is make contact with the company solar, for example, to start the transfer of that. But the first thing they need to do is get in communication with escrow and title. Can you see this? Okay, yeah. So the first thing that you need to do within the first 3 days is have a conversation with your sellers about how you're going to change the status in the MLS and why. So you have 3 days to change it to pending. There are situations where I do not change it until the 3rd day. Can anybody think of a reason why I would leave something active and wait?
Deals fall through.
Why in this period?
Backups.
If I want to get backups, yes, that would be a reason not to change it. Can you think of why deals fall through in this period? Does anybody know? It's okay if you don't. What's that? What's that, Artem?
Financing.
So in the first 3 days, it's usually, unless it's otherwise negotiated, that is the time they have to get their earnest money into escrow. And the way that the contract reads and in practice, if they don't do that, you don't even have a ratified contract. So if they don't put their earnest money into escrow in the first 3 days, you don't even have a ratified contract. So I am very often waiting to have the money delivered into escrow before I change it to pending, because it's really not per the contract pending until the money is in escrow. The only times where I've actually changed it before the 3rd day is where when I had like 25 offers on a property and I had 3 backup offers and I knew this person wasn't going anywhere because they were so fanatically excited about it, then I will change it so that my phone stops ringing and so that people stop scheduling showings, right? But if you think about it, is there a case in which you wouldn't want to get a backup offer? No, you would pretty much always want to have a backup offer, right? Because that's the best case scenario for your seller. So leaving it active as long as you can, and then maybe considering setting it to bring backup offer. As soon as you know that when the inspections are going to be scheduled, that's something that your seller needs to know right away so that they can vacate the property. And so that they can pull things away from walls and do everything, make sure that the carbon monoxide detectors are there, everything that they can do to ensure that the inspection isn't going to pull up something that they have to rectify later. And as soon as you get a response from the buyer's agent about any sort of request for repair that they're going to make, that needs to be communicated. Like I said earlier, the appraiser will call the listing agent in order to schedule so that you can work with your seller. And if it comes in low, again, like I said before, the listing agent very unusually will know about the appraisal. You're usually not going to know. But if there's a low appraisal, they're probably going to let you know and send you a request for a reduction in purchase price or some amendment to the terms that you need to share. And then when you get to the end, you're going to be reviewing closing statements. So you'll get a master settlement statement from the escrow and title company a couple days before you're going to sign, sometimes the day of signing. And you need to review that thoroughly and make sure that any credits that have been negotiated are there and that all of the different fees that are negotiated in the contract are listed correctly, that your commission is listed correctly. And then I always forward it to my buyers and sellers before they go to the closing table so that they can get their eyes on it. So they're not sitting with a notary signing, having questions. Does anybody have questions about that? Okay. So now we have several points mapped out on the timeline with who is involved. So let's dig deeper. So all these points of communication have to happen to meet all of our deadlines. And buyers aren't the only ones with contractual deadlines. Sellers have them as well. So we will look at the documents that need to be created, signed, and exchanged. So do your best to track them in the best chronological order. And you can always come back again and move things around. So again, some things to consider. Is this something that needs to be communicated or something that needs to be sent? Who's involved? Who needs to see it? How am I going to send it? What's the best way? How am I going to follow up after it's been sent? What's important about following up with this particular document? Why is it important? And, what can I already use? What leverage can I pull to make this easier? So marking the listing as pending in the MLS. So having that conversation with your seller about setting it pending or setting it pending, bring back up. What kind of conversation is that? Is that over the phone? Is that over email? And why?
I think it would be both, right? Because essentially you want to have them agree to it in writing, but you also want to make sure that they understand it.
Totally. So I'm going to add to that a little bit and say specifically like a scenario. So let's say that, Melinda is my seller and she says, oh my God, I am so tired of having people through my house. I just market is just pending. I don't want any more showings. And I say, okay, do you understand? We don't have a backup offer and it's totally, I support you fully. If you want to do this, I just want you to understand that I won't be soliciting another offer. I won't be continuing marketing based on this status. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that. Do you understand? And she says, yes, please. I am all done with the people. Okay, great. Now say that conversation was over the phone and you get 2 weeks from that time and your buyer decides to back out of the contract and you don't have anybody in backup. And all of a sudden Melinda's pissed, and she's like, why didn't you da, da, da? And buyers and sellers forget things. Let me tell you, they forget. And we are on repeat all the time. So it is if you don't take anything away from what I say today, follow up every phone call, especially phone calls like that where decisions are made or key points are communicated with an email or a text message. Because even if you think you trust this person and it's the greatest relationship ever, things like that, people are so stressed out and they come back. They come back for sure. So absolutely. Okay. Anybody else have an opinion about that? Or anything else on this timeline for that matter?
I was just going to say when I was on the client end and those phone calls would come in and I'd be super jazzed and willing to move forward and it all made sense as it was coming to my ear, I'd say, yeah, and then it would happen and then I get a document to sign sometimes and it'd be like, wait, what was the conversation that I had? So yeah, that follow-up email is crucial. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm just looking at this schedule appraisal. This is all common sense stuff. Like, why do the sellers need to know when the inspectors are? Is obvious. Why do they need to know when the appraisal is obvious, right? Because they need to know that someone's coming to their house to look around, or that they need to vacate because the buyer's going to be present, right? And if anybody ever asks you, can I just stay? Sure, but no, please. It is not a good situation usually to have buyers and sellers communicating. That's why we're here in the first place. So we just gently remind them, I think it's best to just give them their privacy so they don't feel uncomfortable, and if they have any questions, they'll definitely pass it along. But, facilitating communication is part of my job. So let's just let them have their time kind of thing. And then, what do you need to communicate about the low appraisal? What do you think would be important to communicate about that? Anybody? Well, I will add that people are very sentimental and oftentimes think their home is worth more than it is in the real world. And so this is probably a very tender communication point, something you want to do over the phone and follow up with an email. And it's usually not a happy conversation, but we can workshop that a little bit. I need to move on though. Okay. Okay, so command. I love command and I love opportunities. I don't know if you guys have looked at this part of command yet, but I love that I can see what my pipeline is going to earn me potentially. That's just like a carrot dangling out in front of me that I really, really enjoy. So don't forget to use command to keeping up with those timelines to your opportunities. You can track the progress of your transaction and opportunities, and you can even set it up so that clients get updates and that there's checklists of things that need to be completed and timelines and all of that stuff. So it allows you to track everything. We just need to not forget that you've set it up to remind people, because then if you're screwing around with things, people will get a lot of emails. So it has standard percentages in there. It says, it has taken the national average. If someone is in a cultivate status, right, you're cultivating an opportunity, it has a national average percentage chance that that will actually get to the closing table. Now, in the beginning, it's great to use because you don't know, what your conversion is going to be. But as you go through the business, you can start to tinker with those percentages a little bit more based on your own performance so that your numbers are really, really actually accurate. So you can see what you're going to earn. And I love that. Okay. So can anybody share any big takeaways from this or questions or other ideas you had?
I like the reminders that you gave us following up with the email, especially when it comes to an agreement that may not be exactly what you had in mind from the buyer or seller, to make sure they remember what they've agreed to.
Yeah. Okay.
Just think communication. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say communication period should just be number one. I think somebody said it in one of the classes, like if a buyer, seller, whoever is confused, the answer is usually going to be no, because they don't understand it. So just making sure that we're just going above and beyond communicating and just constantly keeping them in the loop of what's going on.
Yeah. Keeping them on the loop, but keeping them focused too, keeping them focused on what's the next thing, because the whole process, it's like becomes our second language, but for them it's big and it's overwhelming. And there's tons of people that are pulling at them, including their regular life. Right. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. So, it's wanting me to share a story of a time I had a deal fall through between contract signing and close. Just the most recent one that happened to me was something that was really out of my control. So I had a seller that wanted to list her property up in El Dorado Hills. And we got a buyer after the first week that came in and everything was going great. And then actually what happened was that my seller decided that she didn't want to pay off the solar loan that she had previously committed to paying off. And I communicated with her very clearly over and over, this is the premise that we have accepted this offer, that it will be paid off. And there's really not, it's not going to go over well that we're, taking this away at this point, or that you're deciding that you're not going to do it. And it ended up that the buyers ended up walking away. She was just digging her heels in so hard that they ended up walking away. And eventually, in conversation with her, I got her to get back on board, and I got the buyers to get back on board. But what I learned from that, especially regarding the solar, and this is something that Bruce and I talk about regularly, is, where can I document these kinds of things, not just in the contract with the purchase agreement, but when I'm sitting with a seller at the listing appointment. Where can I contractually obligate them in the listing agreement to pay off this solar or not, whatever it is that they want to do? Where can I document what's going to happen so that they can't pull the rug out from under me like that? And then the second part that I learned there was that it was written into the contract that the solar was going to be paid off, and something about the wording made it not enforceable legally, apparently. And quite frankly, I don't remember. But what the key to take away from that is, when you're writing things in to a contract where there's a blank space for you, you have to be very particular about what you're writing in. Okay. So an example of that is if you're representing a buyer and you are requesting that a seller do repairs on the home, you've got, it's out of your hands a little bit. You're requesting that the seller go find someone, hire someone, do the repairs, and then what? So we really want to be clear that we're asking that a licensed, if it's important to you, if it's licensed work, a licensed electrician comes to do the work, provides receipts to the listing agent and the buyer's agent within 3 days, whatever it is, or that kind of reinspection, right? Otherwise, they can just go. I mean, the seller could do it themselves. You don't know what's happening. Does that make sense? Can anyone think of another problem area like that, similar? Daishel, will you tell me it makes sense? Because you're the only person I can see.
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay.
I know it's weird seeing myself on the screen.
Yeah. So there's some risk avoidance for you. And, not only is communication important through this process with your client, but it is equally, if not more important, to be communicating with the other agent, especially when you're representing the buyer, right? That person, if you can lean into that instead of being oppositional, right? It's like you guys are a team coordinating the whole thing. I have had buyer's agents in the inspection period just stop communicating with me. And listen, I don't want to kick people out of contract, but you're not going to not communicate and get all this grace. I got to protect my people, right? And so it's like, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? No answer. And then they end up getting served a notice to perform, which I don't know if you guys know about that yet, but it's not a fun part of the transaction where you're saying, hey, you've got 2 days to figure this out or I'm going to kick you out. So it is very important because most people want to get to the closing table, right? And if you're like, hey, we just got this inspection back, we really need to get an HVAC guy in there, but they can't come until next Tuesday. Can you please give us this extension? If everyone is moving and everyone knows you're moving in the right direction, most likely you're going to get some grace. So really important.
Can I ask a quick question about that, Nicole?
Please, yes.
So when you're, dealing, say you are the buyer's agent and you're dealing with the seller's agent and something that comes up in the time frame, would you, like, a best practice, would that be to go ahead and email the agent and they give you the okay? Or is there some kind of documentation, or do we just take it for face value from the phone call?
Oh, I could really get into the weeds here.
Okay.
You guys are smart individuals, so I'm just going to go for it because I think you're at the point now where you're going to understand. If you were brand new, I wouldn't do this to you. But first of all, I always have conversations over the phone. Always, 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 right? Because as real estate agents, we are supposed to be really great communicators and influencers. And you can hear so much more in a person in their voice than you can over email. So if you're needing something from someone, definitely call, but definitely follow up with the proper documentation. There absolutely is a request for, it's an ETA, an extension of time addendum. And then you'll want to prepare it based on your conversation with the agent. You'll prepare it and send it over so that they can present to their client and get it signed. So yes, everyone does have to agree in order, and they should agree on paper with a signature. That is the short answer.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's for any date, including closing. And this is something somehow title agents forget sometimes, that they can't just close escrow. They are a neutral third party that needs instructions from us. They cannot do anything until we tell them that it's okay with a signed thing. But you'll see sometimes people get kind of loosey-goosey about the close of escrow. Oh, we're ready to close. And you cannot do that unless everyone has agreed. Excuse me. The in the weeds part is that, as a listing agent, I want to get everything to close, but my number one priority is my clients, right? And protecting my clients. And so if I have an agent that's kind of been not really communicating very well, and they're not staying on top of their timelines, and they're kind of just like being, entitled to the whole thing changing, I may grant them verbal grace, but I will still send the notice to perform so that at any point I can pull the plug. right? And so just don't get yourself in that position, because you're all going to be great communicators. You're all going to be great at this. But there are times where I don't give them formal timeline extension. Does that make sense?
Yeah, probably just case by case. When you're seeing how the other agent performs, you kind of have to read it from that point.
Or if I have a backup offer that I know is getting squirrely and they're going to leave, right? It's like, all right, listen, you literally have 24 hours and that's it, kind of thing. So, but just don't let yourself get to that point and you'll be fine. That's as far as I'm going to go with those weeds there. Okay. So yeah, be proactive. I've been saying that over and over. If you're identifying where the risk points are of the deal falling apart, the obvious ones are the contract, and then the contract deadlines, and thinking always about how you're going to keep it alive. Communication is a big part of it. So if you get the deposit in late, right, that's a point of potential falling apart. When you've asked for repairs and you're trying to renegotiate, right, that's a point where you're at risk for things falling apart. So that's after the home inspection. After the appraisal, that's another point where it's at risk. During the lender approval process, that's a point that's at risk, that's less in your control, right? But it is a risk period. Can any of you think of anything already that would help you be proactive to help to making sure you're securing yourself around the lender approval process? Given how removed that is from us, can you think of any way that you could be?
Just be in communication with them, huh? With the lender.
With the lender, for sure.
Yeah, like have a relationship with them, like a go-to lender, just so that it'll be easier to communicate with them, like, hey, what's the status, type of thing.
For sure. Yeah, the trust there for sure. Anything else? Okay. So I call my lender my secret weapon. I am on the phone with him every single day, every single day. And, my attitude is he is definitely my partner, and also definitely reflects on me because I refer people to him. And I refer people to him. So he gets paid a lot of money because I send people his way. So all of your vendors should have a very firm and loving set of expectations that they're clear about, that you expect from them as well. And so my lender understands that we are all about communication and that I want to know what's going on. And there are resources that you should know about, like somebody help me if you know what it is. Is it Transaction Rescue through CAR? It's like a free service that if something is falling apart related to financing, you can call these people and they will help you figure out how to save your deal, finance related. So that's a really cool tool to have in your belt. And then the other thing is just, through the lender approval process, if you're working with someone you trust, then you're going to know what's going on ahead of time, and you can reach out to other lenders if you have to do that. I've had to save a deal before. I've had to say, I know that you have a relationship with this person, but they're going to lose this house for us. I need you to call my preferred lender. And 5 days before closing, we switched. So it is, you would think that lenders want to do their job, but sometimes they don't know what they're doing. So it is our problem. Okay. All right. So what are best practices for keeping the deal alive? We've talked about communication a ton. Can't stress that enough. So it's talking about maintaining a good relationship with your co-broker. But before you even go to market, if you are representing a seller, what is one thing that you can do to ensure that the deal doesn't fall apart later? Actually, 2 things I can think of as the listing agent. I'm going to tell you. So I tell my people there's nothing more important than pricing and preparation. If you overprice a house, it's probably not going to appraise. And that is just creating more risk for yourself. Even if we get it accepted at that price, if these people can't cover the gap, we're creating more risk. The other thing that you can do as a listing agent is have people have the inspections ahead of time, so there's no surprises, right? I don't know why this isn't standard practice. And in my world, I won't even take a client as a listing unless they're going to do their inspections ahead of time, because it's so much more. Think about it. It's a period of risk where the buyer can change their mind for any reason. They don't even have to tell you why they're changing their mind. So that's a risk in and of itself. Then they keep you off the market this whole period. Let's say the inspection period is 14 days. They keep you off the market for 14 days while they do their inspections. So you're just sitting there. Your days on the market are going up. Potential buyers that were interested have moved on. And then they come to you, these buyers, after doing all their inspections, and think that they have leverage, right? Because you've been sitting there, you're close, you're 2 weeks away from escrow. And then they say, well, we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this, and all this stuff that you didn't even know was going on with the house. Versus if you have inspections ahead of time, if the listing agent has them ahead of time, you can fix things before you even go to market. Or you can compensate for things in your pricing and then go into the negotiations with that, right?
Question, Nicole.
Please.
For the inspections, if you do pre-inspections, how likely, I guess, just from your experience, is it that a buyer says, I want to get my own inspections anyways? Or if they are done, within a certain period of time, recent to that going into contract, do they just accept those inspections that you had done?
Those are really, really important questions. Yeah, thank you for asking. So it is totally important how old the inspections are. If they're older than 6 months, typically people are like, nope, I need new ones. Okay. It totally matters who did the inspection, right? Is it a really reputable company? Or is it, like everybody knows the name Twin Termite. It's a huge company. Whether or not they do good inspections, I don't know, but everybody knows their name. So it matters who the inspectors are. Yes. And when they were done. And what was the first part of what you said? Oh, how often? I have only had one time where I have done all my inspections and buyers have opted to do their own. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else around that? Okay. Yeah, always act in our client's best interest. Of course, we all know that, even when it seems to conflict with your own. And yeah, that's an interesting thing, right? Because when you get into the inspections, people, they're really, really leaning on us because they want to know what's important. What should I care about? This inspection is long and it's huge and it's like inflammatory, all of them. So that's this is a really important point of communication that I want to point out. If you're representing the buyer, actually both of them, no matter who you're representing, priming the pump, right? I mean, like leading up to the inspection period, you want to be front loading your communication with people that, hey, here's what the inspectors do, right? Their job is to walk around and point out everything. And they're going to. That is literally their job. Whether or not it's a big deal is a totally irrelevant point. If they see a crack, they're going to say there's a crack. And so when you get these please be reading them, understanding that. Read them, understanding that it is literally their job, because it can actually, people get like pissed off. My house is not in that bad a shape, blah, 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 you know, or a buyer gets scared, like, oh my gosh, this is so long. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what we expected. Please do go have a conversation with the inspector and ask him, because the inspectors will write all this stuff down and then they'll get on the phone and be like, yeah, I mean, you know, as far as like leaks go, that's probably a really small deal. And they just instantly talk people down, right? But if you can talk to your clients ahead of time so that they know going into it what to expect, that will really, really help. Let me see here. So this is asking, can anyone give me an example of when a transaction going to close is not in the best interest of your client?
When the repairs are not completed in time.
Yep. Yep. Or let's say that the inspections come back with so many issues that there's no way your client's going to be able to afford to fix them, right? And you haven't been able to successfully negotiate with the seller. The seller wants an as-is sale, and your buyer is not going to be able to manage what's being thrown at them, right? Or if there are problems that it's like, wow, we can't open walls in an inspection, and there's a real good possibility that there's mold behind that wall, you know, and it's one of those things where you can't decide for them. They want you to, they will ask you to, but you just have to lay out for them that, you know, this could be a health and safety thing. We don't know what's back there. Yeah. Or also when a clear title can't be delivered, right? If there's going to be some issue on the title, but most places won't close without a clear title. So I think that's probably about another state's problem, because in California, I'm pretty sure that we can't even close if there's not a clear, or they won't insure it. That's what it is. They will not do the title insurance unless it's a clear title. Would it be helpful to have an example of that? I can only see one of you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I was trying to buy a property in Placerville, and this property is currently the city granted them the ability to parcel it into 3 parcels because they wanted to develop it. And they said, okay, in order to grant you this parcel, you have to commit to improving the curb and improving the gutter. And there was like one other thing. And wherever they got in the process with their permitting and whatever it was, they didn't do what the city told them to do. And so this property is kind of like in limbo. And the way that the city dealt with it was by placing a lien on the property. And it's not a monetary lien. It's like a you got to do something lien. So either they have to go back and pay the money to undo the parceling, which, you know, I don't know how much that's going to be, or they have to commit to these improvements. So the property could be sold. Like I could go and buy it, just understanding what I'm accepting. I'm inheriting those commitments, right? Just like you would be inheriting a solar lien if it didn't get cleared, right? Okay. I have encouraged clients to walk away from deals before. And this is where it really becomes like it's not about us, right? We get hungry, we need a paycheck, we need all of those things, but people can smell that, sense that, feel that a mile away. And when you can really come from, it's not about you, people will come back for more and more and more. So I had a listing this year in contract. We were in contract, we were ready to close, and my seller was so stressed out. She was so stressed out. And this is one of those times where I granted somebody a little bit of extra time that wasn't communicating, but I didn't do it formally. And one day I was on the phone with her and I was like, you know what? I think we just need to pull this off the market and you need to go handle your stuff. And because it was just too stressful. So you can, do that for people and should. Who's got something? Question, curiosity, comment? Okay. All right. I know that we've been sitting here for an hour, so I'm going to get through the next couple of slides and then we will take a break. Or should we? Actually, let's just go ahead and take a break right now. But let's take a quick break. It's 2:06. We're going to take a 5-minute break so I can go be disgusting. And we'll be back here at 2:11. And I'm going to start right on time so that we don't run out of time because apparently I'm talking too much. Okay. See you at 2:11. All righty. It's time. Okay. So, Melinda, can you let me know when everyone's back? Actually, I'm just going to start talking. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we are moving on right now to talking about how we're going to turn these transactions, now that we finally got them to close, how are we going to turn this into repeat business, referral business, and get reviews and all of that. Okay, so if people feel like they had a great experience and it was effortless as can be, and they felt special to you, they're going to come back, they're going to refer their friends and family, and write you reviews. So the command follow-up programs are a great way, a great piece of leverage to pull if you want to stay in contact with people. The most important thing is that you just can't be afraid to ask. You literally can't be afraid to ask. It is part of your job to ask for referrals and reviews. And most of the time people want to do that for you, especially the review part, you know? So you can do it throughout the transaction. And this is another one of those things where you can front load this conversation, you know, in your listing appointment or in your buyer appointment, where you say, you know, my promise to you is XYZ. And all I ask in return is that if you've had a great experience, my small business relies on your your referrals and your reviews. So, and I want to do a great job. And I just ask that you share it with other people. And you front load that. And then throughout the transaction, you can have reminders set for yourself to ask, you know, number one, how is their experience, you know? So you can get the feedback. And then also, you know, who do you know that is looking to buy or sell here or anywhere in the country? And then, of course, at the close of the transaction, I have a templated email that I send to people that has links that take them exactly to the place to write a review for me. And then I also, for a while, I was doing video reviews, and that was a really cool thing. So some things you might say to people, my business relies on referrals, as I said. I intend to build a relationship of trust between us so that when you think of real estate, you think of me. If you wouldn't mind, please tag me on social media anytime. So a real creative way with the social media thing is as soon as you, with a listing, as soon as you go live, tag them in the social media so that, and tell them to share it, because there's some statistic about how often someone that you know or your neighbor ends up being the person that buys your house and say, we're going to use my leverage, but we're also going to use yours. And so that's an easy way to have your name get attached out there for them. All right. In addition to asking for referrals, right, we're asking for reviews. Being a strong fiduciary, the local expert, and exhibiting unmatched customer service leads to great reviews, which, as we've talked about, is mostly communication. Reviews can be leveraged in social media and on your agent site, and they don't only communicate what it's like to work with you, they can also and do generate new leads. So go ahead and decide, you know, the places that you're going to focus on collecting reviews. I would do more than one place and then get it set up so that it's easy for you to send to people right away.
Where do you take reviews? What platforms?
Oh, yeah. So, okay. I'm a bad example because I probably need to revisit this, but I haven't because it's not broken. Google, Facebook, and Zillow. Most of the time, people write at one place and copy and paste in other places. And then I copy and paste it and I make my own social media post. And then, you know, if you're looking in Instagram, I love this feature. Oops. You know how you can do these highlights, right? Can you guys see this? Nod for me. I can't see anybody. Okay. You'd make a highlight. Oh boy.
Hold it closer, maybe.
Can you see this?
No.
Okay.
It looks like you have your background
Blurry.
blurred out, so it's
Yeah, it's
blurry.
because you have your background blurred out.
Whatever. Somebody, you know what a highlight is in Instagram, right? Like those highlight the circles. If you're looking at your profile, you have those little highlights under.
The reels?
No, it's highlights. So
it's above the reels, right above the reels. There's little circles that you can put all kind of different things. I think you can have about 20 of them total.
So
they're basically stories that stay on your profile page.
Exactly. You can save, thank you, person that is better at this than me. So I created one that says testimonials. And so anytime I post something, I post it in my posts and I post it in my stories, and then I save it to a highlight. So now anybody can go to my page and touch testimonials and bleep through a whole bunch of written testimonials right there on my page. And I've done that with several things. You guys can go and look. It's a little outdated because I haven't kept up with it. Don't be like me, but that's a really good thing to do. Okay. Yeah. And so this says start every relationship by letting them know that you will be asking for their review, this front loading again. Right. And so if you've probably heard me talk many, many times about how I'm always setting up the next thing. I'm always front loading. Hey, I'll be calling you at this time to follow up. Hey, I'll be asking for a review. The more you do that, the more successful you will be in all the ways. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. We've covered a lot. What else are you thinking of regarding using these reviews? What ideas do you have? Questions? Any of that?
Well, kind of clarification. Sorry to go right back to this, but just to make sure I heard you correctly, so if someone were to email me a review, could I just copy paste that and post it for them on my Facebook or elsewhere, say my Keller Williams website?
No, because they have to have an account. It looks at the account. So the way that I copy and paste and post it is I use Canva and I paste it into it that way.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you're asking. So using Command as an automated tool with these 36 touch is really great to instantly have part of your business process be, we close and they instantly go into whatever campaign that you want them in so that they stay top of mind for you and you for them. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. It says, put yourself in the buyer's shoes for a minute. What would you find helpful in the first year of owning a new home and like to get from your agent? And you can tailor your communication around that. I will tell you that it doesn't stop. Once the transaction closes, I maybe get more phone calls from people than I do during the transaction, just like, who are my utility providers? Do you have a referral for this? Do you have a referral for this? Do you have a referral for this? That's the thing I get the most. And so all of these things, a housewarming gift, a part of our business process is to immediately save their HUD form, which is the form they're going to need to file their taxes next year based on this transaction. So we save it for them. We send it to them. And then my schedule send an email for January to send it to them in January, just, a little great point of service. So all of these things are things that people either aren't thinking about or are going to be thinking about that you can introduce them to, right? If they're new to the area, they don't know where to go to get their nails done or what's the best taco place, or, maybe you want to set it to remind them in a year, happy anniversary on your house. There are so many ideas out there on the internet, but you can use all of those ideas to tailor this 36 touch plan. Because I know a lot of you have said to me, what do I say when I touch them these 36 times? Or, you want to be providing value. Well, it's all on the internet. Oh, this is a good one. I didn't think about equity updates. So if you partner with a lender that has access to one of those programs, I can't remember, is it HomeSnap or something like that? There's a bunch of them out there, but you can put them on a plan in Keller, in Command, that sends them a value of their house or the activity in their neighborhood. Or you can set them up with a lender to get a value of their house. That's another way to stay top of mind. Who doesn't like to know how much equity they have? I do. Okay. Oh, okay. This co-agent follow-up, I think I'm going to skip over this. I looked through it and it's not really produced anything for me. Maybe you guys can brainstorm with me for a second. Okay. So your relationships with your other agents, I really took that for granted in the beginning, and I wish that I hadn't. Because when it came to, people starting to get multiple offers, I did a lot better when people knew who I was. Because the know, like, and trust doesn't have just to do with your clients. It has to do with the other agents as well, right? When you're up against other people, oh, I know Nicole's a closer. And you can tell your clients, that's part of your presentation of the offer. I've worked with this agent before. She's telling me this and I believe her, and here's why, and that kind of adds to your offer. So how you show up in the transaction matters. And then, staying in touch with them afterwards, or I used to send a thank you card to the agents I worked with. Okay. So let me just read through this really quickly. Okay. Yeah, that's another thing it mentioned in here is, you might be tempted if somebody moves out of the area, you might be tempted to discontinue communication with them, but they still have a ton of friends and family here, right? And so I want to encourage you to not lean into that. Okay. Any other questions or anything before we move on to the next class? Okay. So the next class is Plan Your Future. You'll have to bear with me for a second while I pull it up. Feel free to ask questions or talk amongst yourselves. Melinda, what you got?
Nada.
I am trying to get back to the email that you sent me that has all the links. Okay, here we go. I got it. So I just wanted to tell you guys, we're here in Ignite and we're going through all of this stuff, and it's, I just want to reiterate to everyone that, you just call us when you're in process and all of these things are coming up, Ariel, when you're having someone who wants to back out, that would be an instant call to my coach. Like, even if you knew at that moment that there was nothing you could do to save it, call me so that I can walk you through, what I may have said or what I may have presented. Because I don't take no for an answer, and not in like a battering ram kind of a way. It's just when someone says no, there's always a reason why. And I genuinely might be able to fix it if I can understand where they're coming from, and they may think there's no hope, but it's my job to know all the ways that there are hope, and so definitely give us a call. I want you guys to call me. All right, let me get this going here. Planning your future. Hopefully you guys are feeling excited about your future.
Jordan's dancing. He's so excited.
Why am I want to see the dancing. I can't see anything. It's so annoying. I need to upgrade my world over here. All right. So today we are going to cover planning your future. So we're just going to blow through asking for success stories because we've already been here together today. But this is the final class in Ignite. So I'm sure that that there's so much more to learn and experience. And every transaction is going to be different. And that's completely normal. And when I said in the beginning today that like I still learn and Bruce still learns things, that's for real. So don't be hard on yourself. And that's why I always tell you when I talk to you that you can't wait for perfection. You can't wait to know all the things in this business because it's never going to happen. But now you have all the tools and you have all the people. Okay, so today you're going to understand the importance of running a smart money business to achieve a successful business, and review your success system and identify different learning paths to available to the Design Your Future Plan by Keller Williams. Okay. I don't know, Melinda, if we're going to have them do an evaluation today, but it does suggest that in here. So I guess I'll leave that up to Melinda. So let's begin on setting our sights for a big future for ourselves, right? Because that's why we're here. We're here to make lots and lots of money. And there's a line in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, to have a better chance of hitting the target, aim high. Aiming high begins with thinking big. And that's what today's session is about. So how you think matters. And it really, really, really does. And I'm going to call one of you out and I hope you're okay with it. But even just hearing you say, so-and-so ghosted me, you know, that's a way that we are used to talking. And I just want to encourage you to reframe that for yourself, because that is a limiting belief, right? That perspective is instantly going to put you in a different mindset than, I'm sure they have a lot going on. I have a lot to offer. I'm just going to keep at it, right? Don't create no's for yourself where there are none. We're going to have enough obstacles in this business than to be getting in our own way like that. So it really, really matters. And especially in the beginning.
If I could just interject to get my man Jason's back. I've had a conversation with him and he has checked me on negative talk. And so from someone who is positive all around, you know, it looks like all of us could improve upon our conversation skills.
Yeah, we all do. And it's not about him, right? It's about what we all naturally do, how we get in our own ways. And it's totally not about him. It's about just the idea that the things we say to ourselves really matter, right? And the more aware you can be of that, the better off you'll be. And I don't know that ever stops, right? So the question, go ahead.
No, I said agreed.
Agreed. Okay. I hope we're still friends.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. So yeah, so checking your mindset. Are you aligned with your heart? You know, this is especially hard when you're coming from a place of like, I need to earn money, right? Like I need a paycheck. That has to be processed and dealt with so you don't show up like that, right? And this is on a daily thing. Like, are you aligned with who you want to be for your clients? And are you ready to take the actions that you need to? So we've talked about mindset over and over because it super duper matters every single day. When it turns to doubt, disappointment, or fear, these are the times to just be aware of and quickly correct, because it totally is within your control, even though it doesn't feel like it. Your mind does not control you. So where's your head? Where is your mindset today? And be honest, not where do you want to be, but where are you?
Overwhelmed.
Frustrated.
Very frustrated.
I second Deshelle.
Oh, fearful.
Ditto.
Fearful. That's a good one because I work full time also. So in order for me to transition full time into real estate, I have got to be successful. So
I would say unmotivated.
Unmotivated.
Like because I do also work full time with my main job, so it's like there isn't a need to push myself in real estate, and I'm kind of like just hitting up my friends here and there, trying to generate leads from them, but maybe not pushing them because I'm also not pushing myself.
Excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excited. Good one too.
Yeah, we can be all the things, right? We can be excited and afraid. We can be excited and unmotivated, you know? And so I think that I've stressed with several of you a really important thing to do in the beginning to keep yourself focused or to be able to refocus yourself or motivate yourself is to get connected to where you want to be and to understand that it's actually possible. There's this theory in Keller Williams floating around that you can have any life you want to have in 5 years. People grossly underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years, and then they way overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year, right? But like, I was with a bunch of women recently at a conference, and we were in the line at the airport, and one of the girls, I was talking about something, and she looked at me and she said, if you were standing here in this line with the version of you from 5 years ago, would you believe that any of what you've accomplished is possible? And I was like, whoa, no. And it is really, really true. And so if you can get yourself connected to what's possible and to what you want, you know, that is a really good way to stay focused. If you haven't done it already, you know, I hope that you do, and you tell me about it. So what does this say? I'd love to know what are some of the ways you've already adjusted your thinking, if you want to share them or write them down in your participant guide. What are some ways that you have helped yourself in real estate or outside of real estate?
Well, I'm really forcing myself outside of my comfort zones. It's been a challenge, but it's been worth it. So facing some of those fears and trying to overcome them and just get out there and do things. It's a big change for me being in this line of work. So every day is a new challenge, and I'm just trying to meet it head on.
Yeah.
Some days are better than others.
Yeah.
I have a little practice that I do. This started before real estate, but I recognize how helpful it is. So I have a 55-gallon barrel that just sits out in my backyard, and it works great during the winter because I just leave it full of water, a little drop of bleach, so no buggers kind of grow in it. And then, you know, morning, nighttime, I just go and jump in it, and until I get my breath under control. And, you know, it can range anywhere from mid-30s to 50 degrees. And for me, the purpose is to accept uncomfortability, to accept that being uncomfortable is okay. And, you know, to maintain heart rate, to maintain breathing.
If you can do that, you can do anything.
It helps out my open houses.
Tell me more.
Just people coming in, talking with strangers. So, you know, reverting back to breathing. And so, yeah, it works for me. I recommend you try it in your bathtub.
Just fill it up with cold water. Wow, hard pass. Yeah, I had a little practice that I still do where I just get Post-it notes and I write down the things that I want, and I stick them on my computer. I stick them on my mirrors. I stick them on my dashboard in my car. And so I see them over and over, and every time I see them, I read them to myself or say them out loud sometimes. So that's one thing I've done to change I have it hanging in my shower too, because that's like the one place as a mom where no one's talking to me. And so I have them in my shower. So anybody else? Okay. So, you know, the Keller Williams belief system, that's what it's called. Keller Williams belief system, along with the 6 personal perspectives that we've gone over. These will really help keep your mindset strong and positive. So win-win or no deal. You know, I have to remind myself of that sometimes, especially when a particularly aggravating agent is on the other side, because that's who I want to be in the world. You know, the integrity of always doing the right thing, even when you don't want to, customers always come first, customers being, your clients, obviously, and then also your staff, if you ever have staff. Commitment in all things, being fully committed. The idea of being 100% committed to something and never questioning it again, I thought was presented in a TED Talk the other day. I thought it was really just something we don't think about, like real commitment, like never ever questioning it again kind of commitment. Communication, seeking first to understand. This is huge, right? Approaching any situation with questions, seeking to understand where the other person is coming from. In my parenting life and in my personal life, that has also been huge. Creativity, so ideas before results. Oh my goodness, the amount of times I have sat across the closing table from an agent who's been doing this for 47 years. And it's like, when's the last time you did anything different? And it's okay having to explain to people, when you're doing something different, that you're, just because it's not the way they did it doesn't mean it's wrong. The creativity is available to you in this business. And teamwork. Yeah. Who you have around you helping you achieve matters a huge amount. Trust, equity, opportunities for all, and success results through people, which is my favorite thing. So you've checked your mindset. I think that hopefully you guys have some things written down of, areas, things that you're going to do to stay focused on your goals, and believing in what's possible. You spent like 4 weeks, hopefully, in your daily success system, communicating with your context. Hopefully you've built a value proposition for yourself and who you want to be. I remember when I first started, that's another thing that I wrote and I framed was my little mission statement. It was something like leading real estate transactions with love, precision, and I don't remember, something like that. So I encourage you to all have that for yourself too, to reflect who you truly are, the value that you personally are going to bring. Oh, I think I said something about fun, and being clear about how your clients will benefit from working with you. And then can you be confident sharing that with people? If you can't be confident the way it's written, then what parts of it can you pull out? Go use Chat GPT or whatever that software is to have you write something for you. If you're not a wordsmith, think of a couple words that are important to you and go have that AI write it for you. Okay. So I'm going to allow you a couple minutes to review and possibly rewrite your value proposition. Hopefully you have it. And then I'm going to ask someone to share. So just take a couple of minutes if you would. And ask questions if you need to. Okay. Is anybody willing to share a couple of ideas that they might want to include in their value proposition, or perhaps a complete one?
What does yours say, Nicole?
Oh, I just mentioned that a couple minutes ago. What's that? I thought I heard someone speak up. Mine says, leading real estate transactions with love, precision, and I want to say excellence or something like that. and fun.
Okay, I'll go first. It's kind of dumb. It's just like a tagline, but I thought of honesty and integrity you can trust.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I made one just now. I said like provide dedicated real estate expertise to help you buy or sell a home every step of the way. I think from my perspective, the main people I'm focusing on right now are like friends and family, and I want them to like know that I care and will be there for them.
Perfect.
Mine right now is helping your dreams become reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's also my dream too.
Yeah. I love that. Your dreams are my dreams. Your goals are my goals, right? Anybody else? Okay. So I have come to understand that you all have written about your big life, maybe in one of the original or one of the beginning sessions. For those of you that haven't done it, I think it was session 4, where you wrote your value proposition originally, and then where you went on to talk about your big life in session 1. So if you have that in front of you and can review it for a second, I'd be interested to know, is there anything that you would change after this time together? You know, do you feel like you're thinking big enough? I'd love to hear about some of the big life things that you wrote down for those of you that participated in that session. In order to have this vision for yourself, you must be realistic about your income, or more specifically, your profit goals. So that's why I say to you, you know, when we have one-on-ones, it's, you know what your survive number is, and then also know what your thrive number is, right? So that you know what you need to survive, but then what could be life-changing money for your family, for you. You must think big and aim high. My big life was, for some reason, I just had $1 million in GCI in my brain. I wanted to make $1 million in GCI. And this is from the beginning. And I put it on my sticky notes, and I put it in my shower, and I saw it every day. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And when I got to the end of my third, I think it was 3.5. So I did 6 months and then 3 years later. And I did was like, I want to say like $300 shy of $1 million in commission. And I was not mad that I hadn't met that goal. That felt like meeting it, you know? So you got to set things out there for yourself and know that it is possible. Yeah. One thing we all have in common, these high achievers, is that we know what we're working for. I wanted to retire my husband at the time. I was really emotionally attached to that. You know, I wanted to create a situation where my kids never had to think about housing ever for as long as they live. Get connected to something to drive your purpose and give you focus. So that may take you some time to think about it, and that's okay. It's important that you be connected to it, and it gives you some feelings when you think about it, even if it makes you afraid, right? Even if it feels uncomfortable, that's probably a good thing. It should feel a little bit out of reach. And moving forward after Ignite, it's going to be essential to have this. Okay. So it says, let's dig a little more into your big why. It is big. It's important to you. It gets you out of bed every morning, excited to get busy. It brings you energy and focus. There was a time where I even literally had it on my ceiling for those days where I didn't want to get out of my bed. It was like right there of why I wanted to get out. It's the ultimate turbocharger, and it's already present even if you haven't thought about it. So it can be really big, or it can be a small big. It doesn't matter what it is. It just needs to drive you. You need to feel the burn in your gut. Okay. And your big why should incorporate all the people in your life and the good that you can provide for them. So it says in your participant guide, there are questions for you to answer and then write out a big why for yourself. to get clear on what matters to you and write it down. So those questions are what topics or causes are most important to you. You know, if you're doing it because you want to donate a ton to charity, that's fine. But answering those questions, we're not going to do it now, but doing it later is super, super, super important to go back to. And I think I've stressed that enough. Does anyone have some big whys that they would love to share? I would love to hear what you're feeling connected to.
For me, my big why when I first got into the business was just being financially stable. And now just listening to the Keller Williams ways, I want to create generational wealth for my family. I want to be able to leave something to my kids and my grandkids. And yeah, that's it.
Love it. I love it. It's totally there for you.
I think the biggest thing for me right now is I'm setting an example for my 14-year-old who she jumps from, thing to thing to thing. And so when I got my real estate license, to see her be so proud of me for finishing it, because subconsciously she gets that from me, bouncing from one thing to the next and just not sticking to things or doing it and then being bored with it and going to something else. And this is the one thing where I'm really, really passionate. So I'm showing her that once you find your passion, you find something that like really works, that you can be successful at it as long as you just keep working at it. And so to be able to show her that and her be so proud of her mom, and then being able to give her the example for when she goes off to, she's in high school now, but when she graduates and like really wants to go and do something, she can really be thoughtful in her decision making on what she does. And that, setting those financial goals is really important too, because it's rough out here in California. So we all are trying to make, trying to clear debt and be able to not just live, but also survive and like really have a life and be able to enjoy that life instead of just paying off bills and things of that nature. So I think that's my biggest thing, is just having that ability to be able to just be like, I don't have to worry about any of those things anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'd love to hear from anybody else if you have it. Otherwise, I'm gonna scoot forward. Okay. Maybe put them in the chat, because that's the part that makes me feel warm and happy. And you should make me feel warm and happy. So, okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about being a good business person now, right? And so I get it. Nobody likes accounting. Well, some weirdos do, but most people don't like accounting or keeping your books. Nobody likes paying taxes. I think that's true. And especially few agents do. So you get into this business because of other skills. And now guess what? You have to be an accountant and a bookkeeper. So as a person who is not great at this stuff and really does not like it, I have some pro tips for you, which I will give. But I like working with people. So do you. We have great sales skills, and we may lack money management. So you don't need an accountant or a tax advisor. You just need to know when to talk to experts. So remember, these are your 6 big jobs, your 6 core competencies. We've been learning about 1 through 5. So we're going to go to number 6, which is manage the money. You're going to get paid for all of this work that you do, and you help them do their business, and that's what you're here for. And you're going to get big paychecks. So it's important to remember that getting paid in this industry is different than getting paid in any other industry. It's not like a salary. There is a lot that needs to be accounted for in this money that you're going to get, and it's your job to account for it. So it's not put it in your money and spend it, or put it in your pocket and spend it. It needs to be allocated. There are going to be expenses, hopefully, as you continue to grow and want to, expand on maybe your lead generation or marketing or something like that. And then of course, taxes. So this says click to animate. Oh, fun. Okay. So who remembers where the commission goes? Some goes to the other agent, some goes to your market center, some goes to your business expenses, some goes to your taxes, and then you get to take the rest home. So you have to cover your company dollar, the franchise royalty and fees with Keller Williams. And then you need to save for covering marketing, because when you get a listing right off the bat, you're putting out money before you're getting paid. So you need to prepare for that. And then roughly another third of that, yes, you go in for marketing, and then don't forget the taxes. So, and then finally you get your own money. So that's a lot different than thinking you get the full commission. So it's an important habit to start right now. One of the best books I read, and I really don't think you need to read it, but Profit First, if I can give you the Cliff Notes, Profit First is a great book. And it basically, I went straight to Chase Bank. I opened up 6 accounts, I think it was. And in order for them to be free, I had to have some savings accounts and some checking and all of that stuff. But I have immediately, when I get a paycheck, like a third of it goes one place into one account. So it's immediately separated and I can see it all so clearly. You should, before you do anything else, get a credit card and a business account that are completely separate from your personal life, or else your taxes are going to be a fudging nightmare. And if you can, every time you get a paycheck, deposit it and do these distributions into these other accounts, whatever they are for you, then you won't ever have to worry about it. And when tax time comes, the money will be there. When times to spend money on marketing, you know how much you have set aside. So I cannot stress that enough. Oh, so there's a KWU course called Profitability Agent Financials. I've never taken it, but it sounds like it might be a good idea. Okay. All right, so let's look at an example. There are 2 different scenarios of a transaction closed by Jessica Campbell where her share is $9,000. Okay. So is the $9,000 commission she receives profit or income / revenue? It's income, right? That's why it's called our GCI, gross commission income. Profit is what's left over. Once you pay all of your overhead, that's your profit. And that funds your taxes and your personal lifestyle and all of that. So I'm sure that you all know at this point why she's getting a check for $5,760 out of commission of $9,000 is because her market center fees are deducted and she's putting money away. Does this graphic make sense to everyone? Okay. In this scenario, she is saving 40% of her income for taxes. This may be a higher number. I don't know. It depends on your tax bracket, right? But it's better to kind of err on the side of caution, because in January, you don't know how much money you're going to make that year. And if you put yourself in a really high tax bracket and haven't saved enough, then you're in a pickle. So, and we really need to do this from the start. Money is good for the good that it can do. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So let's explore the difference between income and profit and how the way that you think of it can change the outcome of your business. If you've taken accounting, you probably already know that income minus expense equals profit. So while the formula to calculate profit is important, it's not the model we use to set and track our profit goals each month, quarter, or year. Instead, we ask ourselves the questions in your participant guide. So how much money do I intend to have in my account at the end of the year? How many homes do I need to sell? And a lot of you and I have already had this conversation, right? That formula for backing out with our average commission here. We know that if you want to make $100,000, here are the activities and the amount of transactions you need to do. And then how can I minimize my expenses to maximize my net outcome? I just want to reiterate, and you'll hear me say this a lot, but this is a very noisy business. And this industry is noisy, meaning there's a lot of micro industries that within our business that kind of prey on the new agent. All the fears that you're feeling, all the I don't knows, where's it going to come from, all of that stuff. You don't need to sign up for anything. Just do what your coaches tell you to do, and the money will come. You don't need to spend extra money. Stay focused on your bottom line in the beginning and always. Okay. So where does our real estate income come from? Listing income comes from transaction with sellers. Sales income is with buyers. Referral income when you're sending someone out to, maybe to Georgia to buy a house. And then leasing income, but that doesn't apply to us. Okay. Let's talk about expenses. There are two types of expenses: cost of sales and your operating expense. So cost of sale only occurs when you have a transaction, right? And so this is like if someone referred Dashell to me to buy something, and I'm going to send a referral gift to that person, assuming it's not an agent, that's part of my cost of sale, right? If she did come from an agent, that 25% or so that I'm sending out, that's cost of sale. Driving around, all the printing I do, right? And in a listing, it's the photographs, all the marketing, that's our cost of sale. And it's important to know what your intention is to spend around every transaction. And then operating expense occurs every day your business is in operation. So it's important to understand the cost of being in business with the market center. Cost of sales are the company dollar, royalty, and any referral fees. If you have employees involved in the transaction, and the company dollar that the agents pay is determined by each market center. Your royalty cap is capped at $3,000 a year. And that's determined by international. So just to be clear, when you have no transaction, there are no cost of sales. However, there are always operating expenses. Okay. So in your participant guide, you see this checklist of best practices to having smart money. This is a great way to stay on track to ensure your financial well-being and your sanity in general. You may be able to check off the first item on this list, given your experience today. Do go through the list for yourself after this for sure. And think about who you already know. Do you know an accountant, a CPA, or an attorney? If you don't, if you go into our Facebook group and ask for referrals, I guarantee you that there are CPAs that specialize in real estate agents and can really help you from the beginning. And I think that that's an important conversation to have early so that you can start making sure you're doing all the right things again, so that your taxes are not a nightmare. So you're not trying to reverse engineer your year. And there may be things that you can plan for writing off that you don't know about right now. And so, I mean, I still learn. God bless the people that want to read the tax code, because it's not me. So, oh, and they're saying here, use this as lead generation. Call your sphere and ask for CPA or attorney referrals. That's a fun idea too.
Hey,
And then,
Artem's an accountant. He's being shy.
oh, hey, Artem, do you specialize in realtors?
I wasn't a CPA or anything. I was just a profit and loss accountant.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that is kind of a fun opportunity to call your sphere and remind them that you're in real estate, because now you need a big fancy CPA of your own. So you guys,
I do know a CPA though.
You do. Yeah. I will tell you that not all CPAs are created equal. There are people who are basically tax preparers. Most of them go and they just put you in this box and don't think creatively and don't read the tax code. But then there are people called tax strategists. And I just recently, this last year, forked out the money to hire a tax strategist. And it is so important to have someone like this in your corner. As you start earning money and you want to, limit the amount that you're giving back to the government, it's all completely legal. It amazes me how much we can do. So finding a good person seriously is important. Okay. Hey, Artem, while you're on the line, will you read this? Oh, you're driving. Don't read. Never mind.
No, I'm at a red light. I can read this real quick. Think and act the wage you want before you earn it. Average is as average does. Good is as good does. And great is as great does. what you do is who you become.
Yeah. So I'm already over time, and Melinda's reminding me that we have graduation today. So Melinda, do you want me to just stop where we are and you can do your thing?
I mean, could you wrap it up in like 5 minutes?
I can try.
That's
Okay.
up to you. That's your call. I just worry
Okay.
about going over.
Yeah, I know. I just apparently can't stop myself. I have so much to say. Okay, so revisit the income goal you've set for yourself after we've been together today, and we can all talk about it in our one-on-ones as well. Take a look at what you write. And this is a great question. Are you thinking and acting the wage you intend even before you've earned it? That is to say, you know, like, are you showing up like the $350 an hour agent you want to be? Start now. People, one of the best pieces of advice I got is they don't know you're not the expert until you tell them, right? So show up as the expert. Okay. All of us, if you've met with me, we've probably already calculated, reverse engineered how many people you need to talk to. So I'm kind of going to skip over this. When you get paid, your market center is going to let you know about all this particular stuff. My market center, direct deposits for me, I'm out of Fair Oaks. If you use Command, if you use a transaction coordinator, they are submitting your transaction request, and the demand goes to escrow and title. When you're doing it on your own, that's part of the process, is submitting your commission request online. And if you go to answers.kw.com, you can search commission request, and that'll give you some more insight. Does anybody have any questions about any of that stuff? Okay. All right. I think that that's it for me. You can go on. And now we are so excited because people are graduating. Can't hear you, Melinda.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Does anybody else love her classes? I love her classes. I love hearing from different agents. Okay, so we have 3 graduates today. I'm not going to take very long. I'm just going to read you something out of the one thing. It says, if everyone has the same number of hours in a day, why do some people get so much done, so much more done than others? Why do they do more, achieve more, earn more, have more? If time is the currency of achievement, then why are some able to cash in their allotment for more chips than others? The answer is they make getting to the heart of things the heart of their approach. They go small. When you want the absolute best chance to succeed in anything you want, your approach should always be the same. Go small. Going small is ignoring all the things you could do and doing what you should do. It's recognizing that not all things matter equally and finding the things that matter most. It's a tighter way to connect what you do with what you want. It's realizing that extraordinary results are differently determined by how narrow you can make your focus. I love what Jordan shared about doing his cold plunges. I'm on TikTok. I see them all the time. They're very entertaining, and it's something I've always wanted to do. It's supposed to help like mental clarity, right? Which I don't have. I have brain fog all of the time. I'm not yet to the point of wanting to do cold plunges, but I've talked about this before. I do daily affirmations. So these 2 stuck out to me, and I'm just going to read them to you really quick. I have to read them slowly because they actually have curse words on them, and I don't want to read those. So this one says, hype yourself up. Make a list of the most positive stuff you can think to say about yourself. You can get it, right? Then take this list to whatever mirror you bless in the morning by looking in. Read out loud and proud that entire list to start every single day. You are awesome. Believe it. So this helps me because there's a viral video of a little girl who's standing in the mirror, and she's like going like this, and like she's like, you're beautiful, you're awesome, you're kind. Like people are nodding. You've seen it, right? I love that that mom makes that little girl do that because it helps her, right? I wish I could do that, but I can't. But anyways, it spoke volumes to me. This one is important to me because it's so true, and you'll hear it throughout your career as an agent or in sales in general. And it's called getting out of your comfort zone. I have on my wall a sign that says, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because a lot of things that we do in sales and it as a realtor, they're uncomfortable, right? So this says, get out of your comfort zone. Comfort zones are lovely places, but nothing ever grows there. Take one big step into the unknown today and try something new. It's time to level up. So these stuck out to me as words of encouragement for your graduation. And we have 3 people graduating today. Jordan, everybody clap for Jordan. Yay. We have Arden, everybody clap for Arden. Yay. And we have Robert. Yay. So if you guys would like to know where you're at with Ignite, what classes you need to take again, shoot me a quick email and I can get you that back tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, you're more than welcome to take Ignite 10 times. We love having faces. We love having conversation, and you're probably going to learn something new every single time. This was my first time teaching Ignite, and Nicole's as well. So we might find new scenarios or stories or anything to bring up in classes. So please feel free to come back and join us in the future. If you're just missing 2 or 3 classes next time, you can always just take those classes. But we love having you guys. Do you guys love Ignite?
You guys have been really good. Like, thank you.
So you can pick up your certificates at your office. So if you're Fair Oaks, it'll be at Fair Oaks in your mailbox. If you're at Sac Metro, they'll be in your mailbox at Sac Metro. Does everybody know that they have a mailbox? You do. Every single person does. So next time you're in the office, ask Sam, ask anyone on the leadership, or come. Oh, my Apple Watch is talking to me. Come by, see me. I will show you where your mailbox is as well.
Thanks.
Great job, everyone. And I don't know when Ignite is starting back up, but watch the training calendar, probably like a week or 2. Sound good?
Quick question about that. So if we're doing it self-paced, what email address do we send them? Because I just have them in my draft waiting to be sent.
You're going to send that to me and Amy.
Got it.
So melindatucker@kw.com. And Amy, if by chance you forget to send it to me as well, she'll just forward it to me.
Got it.
But she reviews the 5 AHAs. I actually keep track of the classes that you're taking. So
yeah. I'll send them to both at the same time.
Awesome. Any other questions, you guys?
And happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday.
This is 42. I don't know what to tell you.
It's gorgeous.
Awesome, you guys. Great class today, Nicole.
Oh, good. Well, thanks.
You did. We didn't even know you were sick.
Well, I did from last week, but you sound great. You sound so much better than when you first got sick.
You do sound a lot better.
Oh, I'm so glad to see all of you. I love this. I can't wait for it to start again. And hopefully I'll talk to all of you soon. Call me anytime.
That's the biggest thing I want to press, is that if you think it's a dumb question, it's not.